he was pretty outspoken about the number 2 at that company, Motlatsi Nzeku, getting his marching orders. He was fired. Motlatsi is with us in the studio. If we start off with the major thrust of the argument that came from Telkom Motlatsi, it was that you opposed the restructuring. You didn't like the fact that you weren't going to be number 1, or possibly that you were going to be demoted. Do you see it that way?
Yeah. Good evening, Alec. Well, let me say, a friend of mine described this, that he said to me, you've been tried by a kangaroo court, where the judge, the prosecutor is one person, but the long and short of it is that all these accusations are not there.
Who was the judge in the kangaroo court?
Well, we have here obviously the CEO who has put the charges against me and then labeled it against me and then dismissed me.
Mm. Part of those charges, I suppose, had something to do with those disclosures in the media in January. In particular, the CEO, Ruben September, had some kind of relationship with Ericsson. There were allegations made that he'd received incentives for a big transaction that Ericsson had done with Telkom. Is there any truth in that?
I don't think there's any truth in that, but I need to say that there was in the letter of the CEO of dismissal reference to possible leakage of information, and I categorically deny that. What I did was to hand over a set of information, of course, to Sunday Times after inquiring on me, and that was purely for self-defense purposes after the company has accused me.
So let's just understand this. You were fired. The Sunday Times got hold of you.
Yeah.
You gave the information to the Sunday Times.
Correct.
And they've published that.
Yeah.
When? Just take us through the timing of this.
Well, this was on Saturday afternoon, this past Saturday, when Sunday Times contacted me.
On Saturday afternoon?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What about your reputation?
Well, definitely, I don't think it will be hindered by what Telkom has put forward. Telkom has really labeled 3 charges against me publicly, which are not in the letter of dismissal. One is that I'm divisive. The second one is that I'm poor performing. And then, of course, the third is that I'm anti-restructuring. And I categorically, very briefly, I can say to you, Alec, and the rest of the listeners, that I have actually set a division and addressed the union over the period of 3 to 6 months, where I articulate very clearly the need to restructure because the business assumptions have changed that were there before Telkom. Secondly, on the non-performance or poor performance, I can state that I've run a number of divisions from procurement to IT services as chief financial officers to customer services, and in each one of those, this respective CEO has even named me during the results day as an employee that has...
Did you get on well with Papi Molatsani?
We got relatively well, professionally well.
Better than Ruben September, the new CEO?
I would say it's about the same.
About the same.
Really,
so what happened?
Professional relation.
What happened here? Because the number 2 in a company doesn't get his marching orders just from a sewer.
Well, there's probably a number of issues that relate to governance. The first one is that I had an audit report itemizing and stating that one of the employees that reports to me has possibly tampered with the procurement outcome of an award. And then, of course, I level charges. I put charges properly using labor relations and against this individual. And, of course, very swiftly after that, I was put on leave first, even before I was dismissed. Of course, there are other governance issues that I felt very strongly against, that the ExCo, the Executive Committee, resolving that we degrade services to customers and then, of course, be able to cut costs and then meet our financial targets such as EBITDA and others.
Are things happening at Telkom that the public would be shocked to hear? In other words, that the public would not be happy to hear about?
Definitely, I don't think the public, particularly customers and other shareholders, I think really we are guardians and we represent our shareholders here and the rest of the stakeholders, and you can't just sit firm and then idle around as the livestock is harvested by hyenas and wolves. You have to, if you're a good shepherd, you've got to come forward and say, this cannot stop.
But you're only a good shepherd now that you've been fired. What happened? Where were you in the time that before you got dismissed?
Definitely inside Telkom, I voiced and I disagreed. One of the issues leveled at me is that I'm divisive. Being divisive is challenging people on what they say, and then, of course, encouraging everybody to have a fair application of mind rather than club voting against an issue. You cannot vote on an irregularity. You've got to apply your mind to it and make sure that you're within the confines.
So were you the one raising the uncomfortable questions, in your opinion? And,
most certainly.
And the group, the other executives at the company, did they close ranks against you?
Most certainly. I mean, on the award in question, which you've just referred to, and then I said categorically, the audit report says there's a possible irregularity here. I said we cannot vote on this. I cannot vote on this. I'll itemize my discomfort with this particular decision, and I did that.
And the possible irregularity was perpetrated by?
Well, it's one of the managers that reports to me.
Mm-hmm. And was he now being protected by the chief executive?
I believe so.
What happens to you from here?
Well, there's a process of recourse, of course, that's taking place where I'm challenging the dismissal.
In court?
Of course. No. Internally within Telkom first, because obviously it's illegal. It's against the law, and there was no hearing. There were no charges present. I was never given an opportunity to answer to those charges. Nothing was presented in front of me. And I was on leave. I had on the media that I've been dismissed.
Motlatsi, interestingly enough, when Peter Nelson was with us in the studio last week, he said they'd been trying to get hold of you for some time and you would not respond to their calls.
Well, I've been in touch with the HR person that was given to link up with repeatedly, and I haven't had all the letters they wanted were delivered to me, even the previous few days. So it's actually amazing that all of a sudden they couldn't get all of me.
Mm. So if things don't go your way in the internal hearings in Telkom, what's the next step?
Well, of course, the next step is to pursue the matter even outside Telkom.
So you now would be looking at a court action thereafter?
We'll definitely do that.
And have you had any job offers?
Yes, I have had very interesting I've got job offers. I've got offers of lawyers from United States, even volunteering to represent me. And I've had a very eventful dismissal so far. I mean, I'm saying I'm not actually unemployed. I'm in between jobs.
Motlatsi Nzeku, the former Chief Operating Officer of Telkom. Well, David, you heard both sides of the story. What's your thought?
This has to take its course in that. I think it's a very, very difficult situation. But I think I feel for Motlatsi, to be dismissed this way as in a senior position is, for a major company like this, I don't think is the right way to do it.
On the other hand, Telkom is being transparent about it. Motlatsi is being transparent from his perspective, so at least this time the truth will come out in the process.
Yeah, I think we're more interested to find out what's happening at Telkom, how it's operating, and how things like this are happening. What's this restructuring all about? What's it going to mean?